Hey guys, welcome to Massive Iron Live. Welcome to Friday. I hope you guys had a wonderful week. We are cruising into December really quickly. I appreciate you guys being here. Massive Iron Live is the longest running live lifting podcast and Q&A in the history of the universe. I've always been here and I will always be here, something like that. I'm here every Friday at 11. So before we get into things, just a reminder that I'm here to answer your questions. Any questions are on the table: diet, training, nutrition, even reasonable off-topic questions. Don't worry if a question has been asked 1,000 times before. I'm here to help. Doesn't matter if it sounds like a newbie question. Don't be shy. So, a couple of things from a logistics standpoint. If your question doesn't go through, and this doesn't happen much anymore, it used to happen all the time on YouTube, but sometimes if your questions are too long, they don't show up. And sometimes if you use a naughty word or a word YouTube doesn't like, it will not show up. So outside of that, if you are watching after live is done and you need to reach me for any reason at all, don't hesitate to head over to Instagram app and the Barman, slide in my DM with questions. You can also email me, benthebarman@gmail.com. I'm always there to help. So how are things going for you guys? Today is going to be a chest day and a 75-minute run for me. My training is going good. My nutrition is going good. My cutting diet's going good. Running's going good. Jiu-jitsu is going good. Staying extremely active on my end. Had a 39 set shoulder workout on Tuesday and a 31 set back workout on Wednesday. Why did I decide to do high volume this week? Because I felt like it, right? No other magical, mystical reason. I just felt like doing it. Now, just a reminder that Thanksgiving is coming up here in America, and I will be having some Black Friday stuff. I'm not a Black Friday type of guy, but I always put out some stuff for Black Friday for people that want to get in on things. You can check out things right here, my website, superlivingtoday.com. You can sign up for my newsletter. You can also find the Black Friday deals. Will be on my Instagram, and I'll also be posting them on YouTube, and I'll be talking about them next Friday. Basically, $6.99 yearly coaching special. You can get over here right now under the coaching tab and sign up for that. I'm going to have a lot of my t-shirts right around costs. Things like discounts on flags, massive iron t-shirts, books, all kinds of things. Probably will have a special on custom workouts. So look for some of those deals. If any of you would like a custom workout, they are only $39, and that is ongoing. You can go over here and search custom. One of the things I don't do to my clients is insult them by discounting coaching. I keep my coaching low because I coach for a living. I keep my costs low. It's only $89.40 a month. And I'm not one of these guys that's going to say, okay, all of you guys have been with me for 3 or 4 years at $89.40 a month. Now I'm going to let somebody else come in at a lower rate because it's Black Friday. I don't screw over my clients like that. If I'm going to give a discount, I'm going to offer you guys to save money on a year, and that's going to be for anybody, so just ethically and from a business standpoint, how many times have you bought something and then a week later, 10 days later, it goes on sale and you're screwed and you're out of money? I don't do that to people. I try to keep my costs reasonable. That's just a business decision. And if I do provide some form of discount, it's for those that have been working with me for a long time. I offer them an ability to save money, through paying for a year up front. So just keep an eye on that. I'm also going to be offering a 2-year special, allow you to save even more money. Right now, the year special is $6.99, and I have quite a few people that have signed up for that over the years, quite a few. This is my busy time of the year. where I'm taking on new clients, a lot of new clients, a lot for me. You see maybe 10 people sign up for that during the month of November, December, and then, when January hits. I'm also going to be introducing a kind of amplified coaching service, if you will, for someone that wants more access, that needs more accountability. Right now, I'm with my clients 5 days a week, and they can do up to 2 form checks a day. I tell my clients they can do up to 2 videos a day, 7 days a week, and I've been doing that forever. But I am going to offer to maybe 3 people maximum, because I don't want to overstuff this. Kind of a next level coaching service where we do a monthly video call. You have ongoing access to me via WhatsApp, and you can send unlimited form videos a day. That's just going to be an optional thing for people that want that or need that, that need that extra kick in the butt. But I will be opening up 3 slots like that. So keep an eye out on things. So how is your training going? What split are you running? How are things going for you? Anything you're not satisfied with? What aren't you satisfied with? Let me know. Drop a comment down below. Let me help. That is what I am here for. If you want a coach that's not just spending their time, running their mouth about YouTube drama, if you want a coach that has coached thousands of people, and people on the powerlifting platform, and people on the bodybuilding stage and Special Olympics, and has written all the articles and made all the videos, this is my life. It's not a content game. It's not an influencer game for me. If you want somebody that is all about this life, that is all about fitness, then I would love to help. I would love to work with you. This is not a game to me. This is not some influencer nonsense to me. This is about people and your results. And I do my best to walk the walk, right? My day is always talking about lifting and nutrition. My personal passions are lifting, are running. Right now, I've added jujitsu to that. I'm no jujitsu expert. I'm just doing it for fun. But, my week is 4 to 5 lifting sessions. My week is 12 straight weeks of a cutting diet. My life is 3 runs, 3 hours of running a week, and generally 2 or 3 hours of jujitsu a week right now. That is who I am. That is what I'm about. And, if you are passionate, you want to make changes, I'm going to help you. I don't speculate. I'm not a theory guy. I base everything I do on experience and studying the history of lifting. I literally see thousands of hours of, form videos a year on all these lifts. This is what I like to do. All right, Rico. Good morning, Rico. Good to have you. Before we get started, we got some funky colors here. The topic of the day, and I don't want to forget this, is how much muscle do you have left to build? And I want to continue to do a topic of the day. I don't want to draw it out, make it too long, but if you have any ideas for things you'd like to see for the topic of the day, let me know. So how much muscle do you have left to build? Okay. So one of the simplest ways to figure this out is to measure your arm and leg size flex. Okay. So we have to start with some sort of a starting point or a grounding point. So the starting point is basically your body fat percentage is somewhere between 12 to 18%. Okay. If your body fat percentage is above this, then we have to raise the expectations, or we have to look a little bit deeper. So let me explain. How much muscle do you have left to build? Okay, so let's assume you are somebody between 12 to 18% body fat, and if you're not, we will look at that in just a moment. If you have 13, 14-inch arms and your body fat percentage is 18 or under, how do you know if you're 18% or under? If you don't really have any man boob fat, any love handle fat, any lower belly fat, or any lower back fat, you're generally 18% or under. That doesn't mean you're super lean, but that's kind of a generalization. If you're in that level, you're 18% or under. So if that is you, and you have 13 or 14-inch arms, you basically have 30 pounds of muscle to build, okay? So about 30 pounds of muscle. So roughly, this is a generalization. We're not trying to make a rule. For every, let's say you have 30 to 35 pounds of muscle to build from the start, and you have maybe 4 inches on your arms, 4.5 inches on your arms to build, maybe moving them from 13 to, 17 and a half, or 13 and a half to 17 and a half. Let's say you have 30 pounds of muscle to build and you want to add about 4.5 inches on your arms. It's going to be about 6 2/3 pounds of muscle for every inch. So roughly 6 2/3 pounds of muscle for every inch on your arms, give or take. This is just a rough guesstimate. So if your body fat percentage is under 18%, let's kind of reference things off 17.5-inch arms just as a generalization, because naturally that's the cream of the crop. Could you potentially go higher? Potentially, if you're big boned or very, elite, super elite genetics with the big bally bicep that poked up, that sort of big round bicep. So if you had 16 to 16.5-inch arms, you probably have about 6 2/3 roughly, pounds of muscle to build. Okay. So let me just pull up the calculator so we can, look at things a little bit, a little bit more in depth, because numbers will help a little bit. So you're aiming for about 17-inch arms. Okay. So if you start at about 13 and a half, let's just say you start at 13 and a half. So you want to gain 4 pounds of muscle, or you want to gain 4 inches on your arms. This is a generalization, and it's going to be an adjustment based off there. 30 pounds of muscle divided by 4 inches on your arms is going to be about 7.5. So you're going to be somewhere between 6 2/3 to 7.5 pounds of muscle for every inch on your arms. So if you have basically 16 to 16.5-inch arms, you're going to have about 6 2/3 to 7 3/4 pounds of muscle left to build. Pretty decent amount. If you're down to 15.5-inch arms, then you're going to have about 13 to 15 pounds of muscle to build. Could be down. It could be as low as 10. Could be as high as 15, but you're kind of in that range, 10 to 15 pounds of muscle. These are individuals 18% or under. If you have 14.5-inch arms, you are roughly 20 to 22.5 pounds of muscle left to build, 25, maybe even upwards of 27. I hope this is making sense. This is kind of a starting point. So keep in your head kind of a loose range. For every inch you want to build, regardless of your body fat percentage, for every inch you want to build on your arms, you need to gain about 6 2/3 to 7.5 pounds of muscle. And that is going to be probably a year minimum for everybody. I mean, if you could get an inch a year, that would be absolutely wonderful, wonderful work. So when you are more overweight, when you are above 18%, you can see that start to skew. You can see your arms having a half inch, an inch, an extra 2 inches of size just from all the extra body fat, right? So the key thing to remember is, let's say you were a little bit overweight and you had 16.5-inch arms and you wanted to get to 18.5-inch arms at the same body fat percentage, you still would use the same rule. You would need to gain about 10, 12, 15 pounds of muscle to gain those 2 inches. Now, if you're going to lose fat in the process, if you say weigh 220 pounds and you have 16.5-inch kind of fluffy fat arms, and you want to end up with 16.5-inch lean arms, you're going to have to probably gain about 12 to 15 pounds of muscle and end up losing a good solid maybe 15 to 20 pounds of fat. Does that make sense? So just a general guideline when it comes to leg size, your leg size is going to be about 9 inches, generally smaller than your arms. So if you want 17.5-inch arms, you're probably going to have roughly 26.5-inch legs. And the reason why I focus on arms and legs are because they're the easiest to measure. And, honestly, we can measure our shoulders and our calves and our neck and all that kind of stuff. But the arms and the legs are the good general indicator. So always remember this soft rule. We're trying not to make a carved in stone rule. This is always the rule. But for every inch on your arms, roughly 6 2/3 to 7.5 pounds of muscle. It could even be a little bit less. Let me know what you guys think if you have any questions. Rico, which was more of a headache to run when you had a supplement business or when you were selling equipment? Absolutely the equipment thing. Selling equipment, you had to deal with, it felt like bringing the equipment into the country was like being under the thumb of the mafia. They just kept having new charges and charges and charges and import fees and transport fees and moving your crap around the warehouse fee and a fee here and the fee there and everywhere a fee. It got so crazy annoying. I was just I'm just looking at, they changed the style a little bit. So I'm just looking at what we got here. Block. What do you guys like? The bubble? Let's just go with the bubble. Definitely the equipment company, because I had the best quality put together with my manufacturer. We went for the best quality in the industry. We left as much room as we could, to mark things up and be able to reorder, because that was the goal. I spent like $25,000 on equipment. The goal was to, after shipping, to multiply that from bringing in 25 to move it to 45,000, so we could basically increase our inventory 60 to 80%. And the shipping aspect or the import aspect ate all the profits, and it was just so disappointing. It's just business, what can you do? Big Joe B, how's it going, Joe B? Good to see you. Hey, Steve, with volume being equal, and if you have 2 pushing days, would it be better? The key word here is better. That's what we always want to focus on. If one is focused on shoulder and the other on shoulder. No, it's not splitting hairs. That can be just personal enjoyment. When I do client workouts like upper posteriors or torso limbs, we lead off one upper day with a chest exercise like bench and the other upper day with a shoulder. I want balance. I want some sort of a balanced structure, excuse me. So it makes a lot of sense. And you could focus on, if you wanted to, a couple of big compounds for chest on your first day, with lighter stuff for your shoulders on the first day. And then the second day, you could focus on 2 really big compounds for your shoulders and then lighter stuff with your chest. Doesn't matter. It's not splitting hairs. This is the beautiful thing about programming, is that we can kind of slice it and dice it as long as the weekly volume makes sense. The weekly impact makes sense. That's the beautiful thing about the canvas that we have in front of us when it comes to programming. We can move it around. So it's not splitting hairs at all. It's basically the art of programming. Can you rank hinge movements, deadlifts, stiff leg deadlifts, RDLs, good mornings, as far as being easy to learn? Okay. So we got two different topics here, easy to learn and putting mass on. First, we need to understand that a deadlift is different than these. All these exercises are different. A good morning and an RDL are in basically the same family, and I'm going to explain. A deadlift is going to change the focus from your hamstrings and your glutes to, and not saying it doesn't work your hamstrings or your glutes, it's going to work more of your upper back, your yoke, than an RDL. An RDL transfers the stress to your hips or your hamstrings because you're focusing on pushing your glutes back to load the hamstrings. And an RDL isn't about depth. An RDL is about loading the hamstrings, getting them in the stretch reflex position. In the same sense, a good morning is basically an RDL with the bar on your back. You're going to focus on pushing your glutes back. You don't want that lower back to break, etc. So the RDL and a good morning are in the same group. A stiff leg deadlift is basically a really good lower back and hamstring exercise that allows you to pull braced off the ground. So it's different from an RDL. It's different because you don't have the stretch reflex position at the bottom of an RDL to pull from. You're going to be using a lighter weight. That doesn't mean it's inferior. It's just a different type of exercise. The stiff leg deadlift is a wonderful, wonderful variation. I am liking it more than the RDL as I move forward personally, but that doesn't mean I don't like the RDL. A lot of my clients have RDLs. I've done RDLs. There's nothing wrong with RDLs. I'm just liking the potential inclusion of both of them. Good mornings are more highly personal. So the deadlift is really a game of inches. It can be a frustrating lift to master until you rewire yourself and understand you're not yanking off the ground. You have to be in a certain position. You have to understand the game, that every half inch is going to matter. If your hips are up a half inch in the deadlift, generally it's going to throw your or force your hips to want to come up as you pull. If your hips are a half inch too low as you pull, when you deadlift, your hips are going to want to fly up. So with the deadlift, unless your hips are in that proper position, which is impossible to replicate 100% every time, you're going to have some struggle keeping the hips in place. The biggest issue with the deadlift is teaching someone to get your hips locked in and just don't pull immediately. You see a lot of guys raise their hips, lower their hips, then pull, and then their hips fly up before they lock in and brace in. You lower your hips, just wait a second, take a big breath, brace, and then try to stand up, right, while keeping your hips in the position. The deadlift is more of a disciplined lift. You really have to learn to be disciplined rather than a gorilla. Once you learn to be disciplined, then you can transition more into being a gorilla. The RDL is one of the hardest lifts to master, along with the barbell squat. It is not a natural movement. It's not simply bending over, lowering a weight, bringing it back up. That's not an RDL. That's a straight leg or stiff leg or slightly bent leg deadlift. An RDL, the point is to keep the weight close to your body, because if it's forward of your body, you're just going to place a lot of unwanted stress on your lower back rather than the hips. So with an RDL, you keep the weight close to your body, push your hips back as you lower the weight close to your body, push your hips back, push your glutes back with the point of loading the hamstrings. We're not going for a crazy hamstring stretch, because under heavy weight, a crazy stretch would be rather dangerous. But you want to feel stress in loading the hamstrings as you push your glutes back. So you push your glutes back on an RDL until you can no longer push them back, and while feeling a slight loading of the hamstrings. And at that point, when the glutes can no longer push back, you push your hips forward. It's not about how low you go. That is a straight leg or bent leg or stiff leg deadlift, and that is a complete different variation. A stiff leg deadlift, you're pulling off the ground with your hips slightly below your shoulders. You get the benefit of really locking in with a good brace, and it is a wonderful, wonderful lift. Good morning is basically an RDL. If you have an RDL mastered, you're probably ready to put the bar on your back and mess around with good morning. So the easiest to learn is the stiff leg deadlift. We have a tendency to really lock in discipline-wise on the stiff leg deadlift, but you will still see people on the regular deadlift not lock in their hips to the same degree. Now, mass, they're all different as far as mass. The deadlift is going to be the king of mass builders. It is a unicorn lift. We're not trying to put it into a simple body part box, but it is wonderful for trap development. It is wonderful for back development and lat development. The RDL is more hamstring and slightly lower back focused. The stiff leg deadlift is hamstring and a little bit more lower back focused. And the good morning is more hamstring and some lower back. So I hope that makes sense. All right. I use a 1 rep max calculator, and they're relatively accurate. On some lifts like the squats or the deadlift, there's going to be a little bit of variance depending on the individual, but overall they're pretty accurate. They're reasonably accurate. A squat could be plus or minus 20 pounds. A deadlift could be plus or minus 20 pounds. But they're reasonably accurate. I think they're reasonably accurate. And thank you. You have a wonderful weekend as well. Yvonne, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Big Justin, new client of mine. Justin, thank you for that opportunity. My cut is going good. New low weight this morning. It will be 4 weeks this Sunday. That's wonderful. So you've lost 13.6 pounds. Or basically a little over 6 kilos in 4 weeks. That's absolutely wonderful work. Jeffrey, good to see you, my friend. Thanks for tuning in. Richard, good morning. The story of the week. I always come unprepared. I was so worried about the topic of the week today that I forgot the story of the week. Shoot, I don't even know. I don't know that I have a story of the week. The biggest thing I've been thinking about lately, and I don't know if this is a story, it's just something on my mind, is that, I'm out running and I think of a lot of things and things just come to me. And I see like this division in lifting where the whole Runvis thing, with naturals being afraid to put needles in their asses and that sort of thing. I came to this with a love for fitness and lifting. I love lifting. I love fitness. I love movement. I love seeing what I can do because it's like a form of freedom and control. The world can suck, but I can go in no matter what and have a good workout. No one can stop me from doing that. Only I can stop myself. The world might suck, right? But, I can go and run for 75 minutes and nobody can stop me. Only I can stop myself. The world might suck, but I can control what I put in my mouth, So that's what fitness and lifting has always been for me. I'm not a perfect guy. I'm not an influencer. I'm just an adult that started making videos out of his basement about lifting. And, I have a lot of miles on the tires. I love lifting. I love helping people change and improve and give them options and ideas and things they can, methods that they can improve what they're doing, improve their bench, improve their body composition, achieve things they didn't think are possible. That's really what it's about. I know they are possible because I have done things I never thought would ever be possible. I didn't start out doing all these things because I wanted to prove something. I didn't even have these goals. I didn't start out saying, I want to squat over 600 pounds and I want to approach a 700-pound deadlift and I want to bench over 400 pounds and I want to do a dumbbell row with 220 pounds for 20 reps and an RDL with 635 and all this stuff. I didn't say I was going to run multiple 50Ks on the trail and do 12-hour endurance runs and do a 100-kilometer run and take up jujitsu at 58. I didn't and make a dramatic body transfer. These are all my accomplishments. I didn't set out I'm going to coach Special Olympics and powerlifting and eventually 2 years ago I was the online coach of the year, and last year I was in the top 4. I didn't set out to do that stuff, right? I just woke up every day and did what I love. And I've always answered questions for people for free. I've always helped people for free. And if they want coaching, yeah, I'd love to work with you. Let's do it. Let's see what we can do. Even with coaching, I'm there 5 days a week. I'm not a once a week spreadsheet guy. There are coaches out there that take on a handful of clients, and I know for a fact the rest of their time they're just playing video games, and that's fine. They do what they want to do. And I understand the value of free time, but I am a coach. This is what I do day in and day out, week in and week out, 7 days a week. But all these things I've accomplished, right? It's always been about fitness and movement to me. And this is a long, long story, but you see stuff like all these fights about who's natural and who's not, and the naturals are afraid to use drugs and all this kind of drama stuff, right? And sometimes I feel like such an outsider. I didn't sign up. I didn't sign up for this. I said this morning on Team Massive, I have a dream that all lifters are created equal. That lifters that take PEDs and lifters that don't can come together and enjoy the process and celebrate the process. Strength respects strength and effort respects effort. That is what I am about. And I find the whole drama thing to be so foreign. I'm not judging it. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. No way. I'm just a schmuck that likes lifting. But I don't connect with it because I'm looking forward to doing a chest workout. And then I'm looking forward to doing a 75-minute run afterwards. And I'm looking forward to jujitsu tomorrow. And I'm looking forward to eating my venison and my wild rice and quinoa tonight. That's what I'm looking forward to. That's what I connect with. So all this, like, who's natural? You're afraid to put a needle in your butt. Your mom, your dad, you're this, you're that. You're not big enough. Your deadlift sucks. You're never going to get that from me. You're not going to get that from me because, occasionally I'll chime in with an opinion on this madness, but that's not what I'm about. No judgment. No judgment. It's just not what I'm about. That's my story for the week. Sean, back to last week, would you say that ab exercises are overhyped? Good question. Seems half the programs out there. I include them as a side note, and here's why. Not to diminish the value of training the abs, but because ab training is very much like, what ice cream flavor do you like? What's your favorite meal, right? What's your death row meal? It doesn't matter what ab exercise you do. Oh, sure, you can say, well, we want something that you can progressively overload. That's fair. But I don't leave them off my program as a side note. I leave them off my program because I'm trying to meet somebody where they're at. And mostly we tend to over focus on ab training. Like somehow if I do a lot of ab training, it's going to give me abs. I think 80% of this is just building your base, with good compound lifts, and then doing in a little bit of ab work is going to help. And if you can do in a little bit of core strengthening for a little bit of minor thickness, the abs are a muscle. They can get a little bit thicker. Of course they can. But we don't want to over focus on things. So depending on the camp, they can certainly be overhyped. Absolutely. But, it depends on the program why they are listed as a side note. I think sometimes there's pushing back, not aggressively, but sometimes you can have such an over focus on ab training that trainers or coaches can be like, okay, let's slow down a little bit. I once knew a person, this was around 2015, 2016. I'm not kidding. This is the truth. They would go into the gym sometime after midnight because nobody else was around, and they would do 1,000 to 2,000 reps of abs every night. Every night. My lower back dies just hearing that story. But there was this overhype, this over faith, or somehow that was going to keep your stomach flat, to the point where it just became like a huge burden and potentially, putting you in the overuse type of category. I think there can be a degree of that, and sometimes some trainers and coaches can pull back on that a little bit and say, hey, let's just ground things a little bit. We can do ab work. Let's focus on what you like to do. Some ab exercises bother my hips. Some we physically can't do. So depending on the camp, they can be overhyped. Depending on the camp, they can be a side note. Richard, thanks for everything. Have a great weekend. For the bench press, should the bar path go straight up? No, don't worry about that stuff. Don't worry about any inverted J's or bar path and direction. Way, way, way into the nonsense realm. It is. Keep it natural. None of this stuff matters. You're not going to, find some magic movement plane that's going to not stress your shoulders. The biggest thing that's going to treat your shoulders good is controlling the weight down, not bouncing it off your chest, not getting loose in the hole, and controlling the weight up. That's it, friends. That's it. I got that, Richard, so I left a comment on there. Shelly, good to see you, Shelly. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Greetings from Scotland. What's your favorite bulking breakfast? Man, if I'm not a big breakfast guy, so if I'm going to get in my calories, it's usually going to be dinner or after 5 o'clock. So I don't want to disappoint anybody, but like my eating before 5 o'clock is certainly not bird-like. I'm not a little bird, but I don't tend to eat like a lot of food before 5 o'clock. Maybe generally the most I will eat in any circumstance is 1,000 to 1,200 calories before 5 o'clock. And then whatever I'm doing is afterwards. Generally, it's about 1,000 to 1,200 calories. When I'm on a cut, I eat 1,000 calories before dinner and 1,000 calories at dinner. So the 1,000 calories before dinner basically depends on the day and what I got going on. All right, guys, we're 45 minutes in. Keep the questions coming. I'll remain on as long as I can. Next Friday live, I'm thinking about doing the old spinaroo to win a free t-shirt or PDF or whatever. I did this several years back, and I might do it next Friday, depending on things. Some of you guys might remember the old ask a question, spin the wheel for something free. I might do that next Friday. I just have to see if I have time to put it all together. Before I continue, just a reminder, if you're interested in a custom workout, please go over here, search custom, or go under the services tab. The custom workouts are only $39. I was up late last night doing about 5 of them, getting caught up for the weekend. And coaching. If you're interested in coaching, $89.40 a month. After the first month, check out the coaching tab. I also have tons of books, tons of workouts, tons of apparel. I am a small business. I'm not an apparel company. Every dollar helps. So if you want to support a small creator, check out my website and all the veritable plethora of stuff that I have available to help you with your goals. All right, where are we at? Big Jimmy C in my best Bill Lumberg voice. Massive Iron, what's happening? All right, so I love Jimmy C, but I have no idea what's going on here. I have no idea what a Bill Lumberg is. I don't know if I search Bill Lumberg on the Googles if I'm going to get like a porn star or a sitcom guy. All right, I see who it is now. It's some guy from Office Space. Is that correct? Never watched this show. Don't hate. I just didn't have a TV for a long, long time. Big Lee. Had the New Testament album on yesterday while doing back. You were right, class. Even if they were the girl's favorite band, I dated for a week when I was 17. She tried to wait a minute. That's a lot to unpack. Had the New Testament album on yesterday while doing back. You're right, class. Even if they were the girl's favorite band, I dated for a week when I was 17. Oh, I got what you're saying. I don't know. Back when I listened to stuff, it was a pre-Cambrian age. When I was listening to this stuff, nobody was listening to this stuff. I was early in on the metal stuff. Not that I was some cultural wizard. I just liked metal. I remember in 83, 84 being early in on a lot of the metal stuff. I just liked it. It's not that I had anything against Snozzy Snozborn or, you know, any of that type of stuff. I liked it. I still like it, but, you know, you give me the choice. I'm going to listen to the new Seek and Destroy by Testament 1,000 times before I listen to Snozzy Snozborn. You know, that's just who I am. So yeah, I don't know anything about girls. I never met a girl that listened to Testament. You probably had an advantage over me. I want to ask about bench. I was told to retry. Don't overthink this stuff. You can set up the platform. Just don't over retract to the point where you can't sustain during the lowering. Because sometimes we can put on our plate 82 different bench press form cues. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to retract. I got to pull down. I got to bend the bar. I got to twist the pinkies. I got to stick a finger in my ear and tickle my inner soul. Right? You know what I'm saying. I'm being a little facetious, but you get all these 82 form cues and you're feeling, and like by the third rep, you can't sustain all this tightness and all these things you're trying to process. Simplify the bench. If you want to retract and depress your shoulders, go ahead. I don't retract and depress my shoulders. I did at some point. My goal is to control the weight down, not bounce it, have a good footing, and press back up. Base building 101. Super simple. Did I build a platform, depress my shoulders, pull them back when I was trying to heavy bench for like 5 years? Yeah. Do I feel it provided any benefit for me? It's going to sound scandalous, but no, I don't feel it did. I got away from it. I don't feel it provided any benefit at all. When I was at a powerlifting meet, did I pack? Did I do the thing? Yes. What did I learn from it? When I wasn't at a powerlifting meet and I didn't do it, I could do the same weight. It didn't beat me up. So I'm not telling you not to use any of these form cues, okay? What I'm telling you is that if you watch the worldwide interwebs and you watched 100 videos on bench press today, you would walk away with this huge pile of bench press form cues. And all of a sudden, you got this Rubik's Cube you're trying to solve, and you're trying to maintain all the tightness and retraction and bending the bar and doing all the things and the pinky twirls while you're lowering the bar and leg drive and blah, blah, blah. And then by rep 3, you're like, what is going on? Because your world's exploding and you can't maintain it. Your legs twitching, your elbows all jacked up. So keep it natural, number one. Does that make sense? How do you do your bench setup? I lay down, I plant my feet, make sure they're in a good position. Then I get my shoulders set. Okay, I move my shoulders into position. Um, do I retract? No, not currently. What I do is I get myself in a good position and I unrack. And then all I do is control it down, kiss the t-shirt, press back up, make sure my feet aren't dancing. I'm big about control. That's all I do. That's all I do these days. Earlier in the year, I got up to 275 for 10 sets of 10. That's all I do. It protects my shoulders, good control. You don't want to bounce it off your chest and get loose, but that's all I do. And it treats me fine. Good for base building. If you want to get funky for advanced powerlifting singles, you can. I don't think leg drive is going to add much, if anything. It might make a difference on the rare 1 rep max attempt. I find it distracting. I find it a waste of time for general training. And you do you. If you find value in it, go ahead. I have clients that do leg drive. I have clients that don't do leg drive. I don't steal their mojo. Whatever you connect with. Me personally, never had any value. It never provided value for me. Mostly with the leg drive, what you see is people pushing their torso this way rather than doing a transference, which helps with the press. Does that make sense? Morning, Steve. Do you think there's a big difference between sinking the bench press or doing a t-shirt pause? I don't want anybody to sink it. But what's the value in sinking it? There's no value in sinking it for general training. You're going to take it down to the key value is just in controlling it down, right? Do you want it to go an inch into your chest to sink it a little bit? That's just arbitrary. Why are we trying to do this? You take it down to a natural position, controlling it, and press it back up. You don't want to get loose at the bottom. You don't want to get loose and sink and then press from a loose position. I wouldn't recommend that at all. Experimenting with pyramid training. What's a good progression approach that complements the style of training? You pyramiding up or down? Usually, with the threes protocol, you're pyramiding down in weight. So the threes protocol or DDP. If you want some of these progression approaches, head over to the main page of my YouTube and search progression. And there's a really good video on some of my main progression approaches. If you're pyramiding down, you can do the threes or the DDP. That's the easiest way, or drop 10%, give or take. If you're pyramiding up, I tend to do 12, 10, 8. So it's like a reverse DDP. I'll have 3 different weights, and I'll have a rep target for each of these different weights. So I'll start with the lighter, and you might aim for 12 reps. And then when you get 12 reps on the first set, you move up 5 pounds. On the second set, you might aim for 10 reps and move up with a different weight, move up 5 pounds. And on the third set, it might be 8. You can adjust these all you want. Okay. It could be 10. It could be 7. It could be 5. It could be 12. It could be 9. It could be 7. It can be whatever you want. But you want at least a couple reps of spacing between. And you probably want at least 10 reps, 10 minimum for the first. So I hope that helps some. Big Jimmy C. What does a floor press bring to the table? It's just a different variation. It's not magical. You don't need to overthink it. It teaches you to bench from just a different position. You're not bringing your arms all the way down. You have to focus on controlling it because you can't bottom out. So it inherently has some benefit. If you have a bench presser that is sloppy or bouncing, they can't be sloppy or bouncing on a floor press. They have to learn to control it. So it inherently teaches you control. It is more triceps centric. You can generally do a lot of weight. What percentage of your traditional bench? It's always in the same ballpark for me. give or take a nodule, a hair, a goat's, nipple, whatever you want to say, a little, a little difference. It's always a little difference, Um, I've never noticed that dramatic of a difference. If you're going to start doing the floor press, it is you want to maybe start with 80% of the weight you were using on bench, get a feel for it for a couple, 2, 3 weeks, and then kind of move up into it. Big Richard. For exercises like rack chins or inverted rows, do you think the grip can be changed regularly? Why? I mean, you can, but don't overthink this stuff. You don't need to change grips. Like it's not going to I'm going to go from here to some ultra wide and all of a sudden it's going to dramatically change things. I mean, if you want to do AB grip variations on lat pull downs and, a rack chin, inverted row, you can, but don't get so far into the weeds that you think this is going to be some magical, event that is going to trigger maximum, whatever. Have fun. If you find value in different grip spacings, alternate AB every other week. Don't panic that if you don't, it's going to have some dramatic impact. You want a natural grip for the majority of your stuff. You could try a slightly wider, but you don't have to go super wide. You can move it out of palm if you want. Just have fun and use your best common sense and judgment. All right, Mr. Fickenberger. Steve, are dumbbell rows considered horizontal? Yes. If I'm doing 3 working sets of seated wide grip cable rows, no, they're not redundant. You want a lot of big horizontal rows. Are dumbbell bench and bench redundant? I guess if but it's not about putting one exercise in every box, right? I got one exercise for a horizontal row, one exercise for a horizontal press. That's not the way it works, right? It's more complex and robust than that. We have different movement patterns, different degrees of punishment. A dumbbell row is going to be far more physically punishing. It's going to take a lot more out of you from a cardiovascular standpoint. You can't do as much volume. So a good complement to that is doing dumbbell rows or machine rows. Seated cable rows and or machine rows. So don't think like that. That's just, narrow thinking. Like some arbitrary thing that we can only have one exercise per movement pattern or it is redundant. And I'm not making fun of Fickberger. I'm just saying we have to break free of that arbitrary nonsense because that's what it is. I can only do one vertical pull. I can only do one horizontal pull. I can only do one vertical press, right? Use a good selection of exercises that work for you. The vertical pulls, like pull-ups or lat pull-downs, are generally pretty limiting. On lat pull-down, you're going to hit a soft wall pretty quick. Most people can't do a lot of pull-ups very well. Some people can, but you're going to have to rely on the horizontal row generally a lot more if you want to build a big back because, number one, there's not a lot of quality vertical pulling. You can certainly do a pullover machine or a dumbbell pullover or a lat prayer or a lat pull down or a pull up variations, right? Those are great, but you need a couple of big rows every week, at least a couple of big rows. Not redundant, intense, impactful. How would you track cardio work in my case, sled on a week and Saturday? Any way that makes sense to you. If you have a defined distance on your sled pull, I would track weight and number of repetitions you did it for. So I've done sled pulls before. Maybe I'm going to do 50 pounds or 180 pounds for 50 yards for 7 repetitions back and forth. It's all, I'm not going to do steps. To me, steps are like getting in the weeds a little bit. If you want to do nonstop back and forth, no break time with a lighter weight, you can certainly do that. It all comes, there's no right or wrong. This is just conditioning work. Doesn't mean it can add some degree of muscularity and strength, but track it in a way that makes sense for you. All right. Despite my pyramid training, weakened my max, I can still BTN, I don't know, man. Watch your diet. Make sure you're on a good bulk. If presses are struggling, a big portion of the time it is your nutrition. Not making a generalization. I was 2 months Army assignment. While in there, my libido was high as hell, and now there is none. Last 4 months were physically, mentally hard because in college I didn't train and sleep. I don't know what to tell you, man. Life is filled with magical, mystical, different cycles. You can try to overanalyze it. I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs. I don't know what was going on. So, if you're under a lot of stress, maybe your mind's just in a different place. I wish I had some magical advice for you. This is way outside of my pay grade. In planks, how long should one hold continuously? I like to do shoulder tap planks. I mean, planks are highly individual, Richard. There's no magic answer here, and I'm not being dismissive. Planks are like, how long can you tolerate waterboarding, right? I mean, how long should you do it? I don't know. You could do maybe 6 sets of 30 seconds or 3 planks of 60 seconds or 3 planks of 2 minutes, whatever you want. I tend to do shoulder taps. So I'll do 1, 2, 3, and then go to 50. I tend to do counting because it's the same thing as planking. You're just making it slightly more difficult. I like to do tapping or counting when I'm doing planking because if not, after like 15 seconds, I feel like I've been doing it for an eternity, and I'm sure you know what I mean. Thank you, Richard. I appreciate that. You have a wonderful weekend as well. Hot take. GVS's latest video is insightful, but at least in the UK, natty lifting will never die due to the. You're always going to, natty lifting, I don't even know what his video was about, but, the whole natty lifting is not going to die. People are always going to want to do what they want to do for whatever personal reason they have. 90% of people that go to the gym aren't even interested in maximum muscle mass. They're just trying to get some benefit out of it. You're always going to have people that want an advantage. And I'm not saying that in a judgmental way. Do your own research. It's your life, your job, your workout, your thing. I don't care. I'm not saying that to Lee. I don't care what anybody does. I know why I do it. You know why you do it. If you want to take BPC 372 or whatever the heck it is, or, TRT or whatever, I don't care, right? That's your decision. Life is hard. You're an adult. You do what you need to do. This is just about fitness and lifting to me. What are your opinions on the snatch grip high pull for hypertrophy? Fun, explosive movement. Yeah, it's fine. Do we need to go all the way out to the snatch pull? As long as it feels natural, that's fine. I like the high pull. I do them on a weekly basis. I do a superset of strict upright rows, and then I finish off with high pulls as kind of a mechanical drop set. If you find good value in it, they're fine. I think they're a good, third tier exercise. Third tier doesn't mean bad. I just mean for shoulders, once you get past the dumbbell overheads and the barbell overheads and the machine overheads, then if you want to get into uprights or snatch grip high pulls, absolutely. I love the high pulls. So as long as it treats you good, do it and just focus on, driving the elbows up as part of the movement pattern. Big Lee Mama Jamma. If selling and buying gym equipment is anything like the posting and tax I saw trying to buy a DVD of 2000 indie wrestling from Pittsburgh. You will be in my prayers. Thank you. The buying and selling. I tried to get into the selling of exercise equipment right after the pandemic, after everybody had bought stuff already. So it wasn't a good time for me. Let's see. If I would have had more money and more time, it would have been a good investment, but it just wasn't the right time for me. Joshua, I'm new to these movements, but they seem necessary for bodybuilding. Nothing is necessary. Okay? No magic exercises. Let's just set the table. Nothing is necessary. Incline Smith, not necessary. A dumbbell incline, not necessary. Are they better for learning? No. The best thing for learning is getting in the gym and doing exercises you enjoy, controlling it, and see what you like and don't like. Nothing is necessary. You can do an incline machine press, an incline Smith press, incline dumbbell press, incline mamma jamma press, whatever you want, don't matter. Nothing is necessary, not even incline work. Good morning, Big Ernie. How's it going? Good mornings should be called yargs. I'm missing the reference, so maybe somebody can school me. Simonson, 50 years ago, I heard that for a maximum arm development, you could at best expect 1 inch on your arms for a 10-pound increase. That's reasonable. That seems very reasonable. That's in line, like that would include some body fat percentage. So the average natural, if they maxed out on muscle, could gain about 30 to 35 pounds of muscle over the course of the life. If you're talking GBS, basement bodybuilding, bald Omni-Man, Alex. So gaining about 4 inches, you're going to have about 7.5 pounds of muscle, including body fat. It could be 10. That's reasonable. I use a push-pull legs, rest, upper, lower, rest currently. Sounds reasonable. How many hard sets do you recommend? So watch my videos on weekly volume, okay? First, you take the number of workouts you're going to have per week, and you have 5, and you multiply. This is a starting point. It's not a rule, so don't anybody get their undies in a bundle. You take your weekly volume. Let's just pull up the calculator. Okay, present, share screen. Bing, bang, bong. Okay. So whatever your weekly workouts are, in this case 5, you multiply by 18 hard sets. So you're going to start with 90. This is a starting point, not a rule. Don't get your undies in a bundle. That's what Mom used to say. You can adjust up or down. Generally, we're not going to adjust up because it's too much volume, but you can adjust down a little bit. So you have 90 hard sets per week. This is going to keep you in the gym about 75 minutes a day, maybe 80, whatever. So now you take that and you multiply it by 2/3. So basically you have 60 hard sets. And the rule of 2/3, the first 2/3, you're going to take these 60, 2/3 of your weekly volume, 90 times 2/3 is 60. Okay. So now you're going to divide those up between chest, back, shoulders, and quads. So you have 4 major areas of focus. So you're going to have 15 sets for each of these. So you have to start to shuffle these out like cards. Okay, I want squats on this upper, or squats on this lower, leg press on this lower, leg extensions on this lower, whatever. So now after you divvy out your chest, back, shoulders, and quads, you have 30 sets left, and you're going to multiply this by 2 divided by 3, which is going to give you 20 sets. You're going to divvy out for biceps, triceps, and hamstrings. This will leave you, using the 2/3 for major and the remaining 2/3 for minor, it'll leave you with 10 extra sets to put for whatever you want. Abs and traps, maybe more arm work, maybe the deadlift, maybe the forearms, whatever you want. This is how you do it. and you create your workout, and then you decide what you want to shuffle around, maybe what you want to reduce the volume on, maybe what you want to increase the volume on. If you do 4 workouts a week, multiply that by 18 hard sets, that gives you 72 weekly sets. Multiply that by 2/3, 48 hard sets for chest, back, shoulders, and quads. That's 12 each. The remaining 24 sets, you multiply by 2/3 again. That gives you 16 sets for back, biceps, biceps, triceps, and hamstrings. You have 8 sets left. You can add in extra arm work, forearm work, whatever. And then if you don't feel like you have enough arm work, you can adjust it, whatever. Any progress on getting your omnibus? Man, I forgot about it. Thanks for the reminder. I understand completely, so I got to get my act together. I will make that a priority in the new year. If you don't have my omnibus, it is about 1 billion pages of information. You can go over here. There is an omnibus tab. It's literally like 10 books, probably minimum 3,000 pages of information, quality information, not just fluff. How much water do you recommend we drink every day? If you ask my wife, about 10 million gallons. If you ask me, I don't know. I just kind of drink. I'm not one to over monitor water intake. I just keep it natural. So, do your thing. That's not something I particularly like to micromanage or worry about too much. Class equals UK slang for great. Okay, gotcha. Thanks for doing these. Thank you for watching them. Replaying these gets me through my runs. Thank you so much. I'm glad you can tolerate my voice for 90 minutes. Thank you. Big Lee. She paid for me to see Deicide. The promoter of that gig wanted to hospitalize me, and she knew it because I blocked him on social media. I was 17, 18. He was 40. Didn't listen to Testament for years. In my teenage years, we were all either metalheads, emo, I was early on in Testament, and I detached from them for quite a while. So I don't know specifically a lot of their, middle canon, so to speak. How long would it take to get to be able to do 2 to 5 pull-ups? I can't do one now. It depends on a lot of things. What's your body weight? How good are your pull-up reps? It really, really depends. I mean, for some people, adding a rep every 3 months is pretty normal. Big Jimmy. Circling back to your discussion about ab work, you properly get a decent amount of ab work as a secondary to a lot of the compounds and other lifts like overhead and stuff. What you say, yeah, you do. I mean, you're going to have core stability work on squats, on deadlifts, on overhead presses, even on bench. The core is absolutely integral in nearly every lift. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do other core work. That just means you're getting a lot of baseline core work. And if you don't have to over obsess, you can add in ab work on top of that. We got about 6 questions left, guys. Just a warning, 6 questions left. My dumbbell set goes up in awkward 9-pound intervals. That kind of stinks, but what can you do, right? How would you suggest I progress my biceps, triceps? You first are probably going to have to get each of them up to something like 12 reps each. A little bit higher on the rep end. I know this can be a pain in the Badooski, but because you have such a big jump, it's almost going to be a necessity. You could try 10s or 11s, but I would probably try to get everything up to 12. Only move the first set up. So let's say you're doing 21s with dumbbell curls. You get 21 for 12, 12, 12. Boom, good job. Okay? Move the first set up to 30. You might only be able to get 5 or 6. but keep grinding on that set until you get it up to 12 and then move the second set up. So you're going to have to take it set by set. You might have an initial set that feels really, really heavy and low reps. That's okay. That's all you can do. Outside of that, you can go on what we would call Amazon or Walmart, not being facetious, just educating you guys. You can get a wrist weight or an ankle weight for a couple pounds. I don't know what they run, wrist weight, maybe some of them go up to 3-4 pounds. I have these at home. So if I want a micro load like a lateral, I can use a wrist weight, which is a good secondary option if you're looking for Santa Claus to bring you something. I'm trying not to sneeze. Hold on. I think that might be the first time I ever sneezed on live. I don't know what happened there. Maybe I'm allergic to wrist weights. I'm I'm trying to increase my bench and currently benching twice a week, Monday and Thursday. Would you recommend to start off with lower volume on the first day? Yeah, I mean, I have a program where you do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you do lower volume and then you have 5, 10, 10, 20. Look at that program not as something you have to do, but kind of as a template. You could do a 3x5 one day, a 4x5 one day, a 4x8, 4x10 the next. It's a good idea to do something different on these 2 days. There's no downsides, only potential upsides. You could also do variations. So you could do a 3x5 on flat bench and maybe a 4x8 on the Larson bench, right? Or 4x8 on the floor press, or 4x8 on the incline. You could alternate variations and rep volume, if that makes sense. Big Tom. I've made good progress on DDP protocol. If you guys don't know what it is, go over to my main YouTube page, main page of my YouTube, search progression. There's some videos on there that will explain DDP. Now adding bulldozer sets to keep progress going. Should I use bulldozers for principal compound? Nah, for deadlift, look at the 10 or 6 minute deadlift protocol. I got that all over my content. If you can't find it, let me know. That's what I would do rest pause for deadlifts. Squats, you generally don't want to do rest pause work. The racking and unracking is going to be more trouble than the actual sets. For bench press or bent over rows or overheads or anything else, you can really do bulldozer. Escalating bulldozer is one solid option. How about alternating DDP with bulldozer week to week? You can do that on like bench or overhead or even a row. I would not. You could do deadlifts 2s or 3s or DDP, and then the next week you could do the 6 or 10 minute rest pause protocol. Certainly you could do that. Roughly, what is the maximum body fat percentage you would recommend starting a bulk from? Doesn't matter. That's highly individual. For health wise, I don't want you really getting over 230 for men. That puts you in the heart attack zone. So I would probably start, doesn't matter your height, men over 240 pounds or over are in the danger zone. So I don't think in terms of body fat percentage. I think in terms of where do you feel comfortable with? Where do you like to be? Some guys like to be smaller. Some guys like to be a little bit thicker, look a little bit better. Not better necessarily, but they don't mind a little bit higher body fat percentage. Doesn't matter. You just have to make sure your ceiling is a comfortable weight for you. Big Nolan, good to see you, my friend. What's a few high volume food snack ideas you recommend trying? Okay, so you might know some of these because Nolan and I have been working together for a long time, but grapes. You can eat a ton of grapes and you get tired of eating grapes and strawberries and grapes, and you can mix them with Greek yogurt, plain Greek yogurt, fruity Greek yogurt, whatever you want. Fill you up. Dice up 3 big tomatoes, put in a ton of Greek yogurt, some pickled onions, some roasted red pepper slices. You can get a ton of food volume up in there and you can't eat it all. One thing I like to do is I like to get 2 chunky soups that are under 300 calories or under. Chunky soup, why chunky soup? They taste pretty good, and you can get a 600 calorie base. You can get one of these things of these cherry tomatoes of like 2 pounds. You can put that in the 600 calories of chunky soup, and all of a sudden you have what, 750 calories? And then you can put in 2 cups of plain Greek yogurt. You're up to 900 calories, and that's so much food, you can't even finish it. And now you can add in a lot of jalapenos, pickled pearl onions, roasted red pepper, pickled red onions, pepperoncini peppers. You can add in all that stuff, and all of a sudden you have 1,000 calories. You put in 2 cans of chunky soup, 2 cups of plain Greek yogurt. You're up to like 750 calories, 760. You add in 2 pounds of cherry tomatoes, you're up to 900. And then you put in all the stuff, the pepperoncinis, the peppers, the pickled pearl onions, the roasted red pepper. You're up to 1,000 calories. That is so much food, your stomach is going to explode and you're not going to be able to finish it. Trust me. When I am on a cut, I do this sort of thing. Because like last night, I'm so incredibly hungry. I don't rely on chunky soup. You don't have to rely on chunky soup. You can get these packs of like chicken. I got them at Ollie's. You know, like 300 calories of chicken. You can put one of those bad boys in your chunky soup, 300 calories and Greek yogurt and stuff. You know, you can use 500 calories of venison or bison. You also, look, egg whites. We all hate egg whites, right? You can take a big mamma jam of egg whites, like 400, 300 calories egg whites. It makes food like it makes like a bunch of food like this big. And then you could add in 2 or 3 eggs and you can bring it up to like 400 or 500 calories. Put in a couple cups of Greek yogurt. Put in extra stuff like a pack of this 300 calorie chicken. You're up to like tons of egg whites, a couple, 2-3 eggs, a couple cups of Greek yogurt, like 300 calories of chicken. And then you can add in like some cherry tomatoes, jalapenos, pepperoncinis, pickled pearl onions, roasted red peppers, fresh onion. All of a sudden, you got 1,000 calories of food you can't possibly eat. You know the beautiful thing? It tastes amazing. It does. It tastes good. So when you are struggling with binge eating or you need food volume, it's okay to do borderline ghetto foods, packs of chicken, chunky soup. You need to survive, and that's better than opening up Doritos, right? I love the instant potatoes. You can get a pack of instant potatoes, 400 calories, put in 500 calories of bison or venison or ground turkey, ground chicken, and then put jalapenos and pickled onions and roasted red pepper and all kinds of stuff, and you're up to 1,000, 1,100 calories, and that's a lot of food. Now, that's just a starting point, right? But those are some really, that's what I do. You know, and these are things I do that don't cost a lot of money. Big Jimmy. I saw an exercise yesterday. Looked super challenging. Kind of like a neutral grip dumbbell press. Dude was standing so the elbows were at 90 degrees, pressing the dumbbell forward. Like you see people laying down and doing like a Superman press. He's doing like a Sven press, but with dumbbells. You have to understand that some of these exercises look really cool, but aren't going to really do anything for hypertrophy, and they might stress the shoulders in a negative way. I don't know about that one, my friend. You could do something like that potentially for your rotator cuff help, but I would do really light. This is not a hypertrophy lift. So be really careful for stuff like stuff like that. What's the workout for today? It's going to be chest and a 75-minute run. Frank, good to see you, my friend. Big shout out to Steve and his coaching services. Over the years, he has really taught me how to program and train hard. Thank you, Frank. Frank is one of my favorite people. Me and Frank have known each other for a long time. I really look forward to getting over to the UK next year, which is on my to-do list, and meeting you guys, because you guys are not just, you guys are friends to me. You're people we have so much time invested in, people I care about, and that's really what it's all about for me. And I thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for the answer, but I think you didn't read my whole question about putting focus on legs. Where is it? What did I miss? I'm scrolling up. How many hard sets if I want to emphasize? Oh, if you want to emphasize legs, I gave you an example of starting with 90 total hard sets, and I apologize. But you could, let's say, if you use the rule of 2/3, you have 60 sets for back, chest, shoulders, and quads. What you could do is you could reduce 15 hard sets for back, shoulders, and chest down to 12 and move that extra volume over to quads and hamstrings. Does that make sense? Same weekly volume, just a little bit of a shift. All right, last call, last question. If you have an extra question, get them now. I just bought a club bell. Any advice? I've been using a club. I've been doing club swings the last month. The only thing I can tell you is I started with the club and 5 pounds. It was feeling pretty reasonable. I moved up to 7.5, and all of a sudden, boom, it was like I doubled the weight. So just progressed really, really slowly. No shame in micro-loading. Oh, I got an itchy nose. All right, guys, before you go, I just want to tell you to please check out my website. If you would like to learn more about coaching, check out the coaching tab. Check out the massive omnibus if you want 8 million words of information. Check out my workout programs. If you want a custom workout, it's only $39. That is it. We'll see you on Black Friday. Black Friday is coming. We'll see you. Have a wonderful weekend.
It's not almost over. It's not almost over. You're not almost there. You're not almost there. You're not almost there.
These are the 160s. I posted this on Instagram this week. I always get my balls busted a little bit because there's no, oops, I don't know why it stopped. There's no easy way to set this down. So sometimes, I don't know why the whole video didn't load properly. There's no easy way to set this down. So you have to kind of flip them down. And occasionally, when you do that, somebody on social media will, bust your balls a little bit because you drop the weight. If you can't control the weight, you know how it goes, then you shouldn't be moving it. Well, sometimes, that sounds all good and well, and I understand the concern, but, sometimes in life, it's just not that easy. Okay, so this is a dumbbell lateral. I like to have the weight just a little bit in front of the shoulders at the side. I like to take a big breath, brace the core, take it up to at least shoulder level, and then have it a little bit in front of the shoulders up the side. Let the elbows bend naturally. Now, we were speaking of, an ab exercise. I'm going to show you an ab exercise right now that most of you probably have never Never, let's see, never seen. I just saw it, so hold on. It's going to look funky, and I look like a Nobuchevsky. Okay, so basically, you can put your feet under something, a dumbbell, a barbell, a rack, whatever you want. But basically, you hold a barbell above you, and then you do a sit-up and you push it overhead. This is really hard on the hips, but it's a fun exercise, and you can overload it. You know, you can't get aggressive, but it's a little bit of a fun. Look, dude in the background walking around with his shirt off like King Kong, right? But this is a fun exercise. It helps when you can brace your feet. This is really, really hard on my hips, so you might not like it for that reason. All right, guys, I'm out of here. See you guys next week. Stay out of trouble.